Good evening, everybody. Your amazing host, Mr. James M. Krasnerick, is live here with another edition of Real Steel Sports. I apologize for not doing a preview show to week 2 of the NFL season. I'm going to try to do one for every week of the NFL season now. However, I did have another very successful week picking games. 13-3 this week takes my yearly credentials up to 25 correct picks and only 7 incorrect picks. So needless to say, I'm having a very, very good year picking games again. Now, there are so many things I could talk about on this show. I mean, the penalties and fines to guys like Deshaun Goldston, the Seahawks trouncing of the San Francisco 49ers. Or I could talk about this week's games coming up, and Andy Reid going back to Philly to take on his old team, the Eagles. Now he's the head coach of the Chiefs. But I want to stick with the Steelers here, because I would like to thank the Rooneys, Todd Haley in particular, Mike Tomlin in particular, and Dick LeBeau, and the entire 53-man roster for making me look like the biggest idiot this half of the state. I felt at the start of the year that an offensive line with a good center and the rest of the pieces are okay would hold up enough to allow Ben Roethlisberger and a defense with a little bit of youth and still a little bit of veteran spark to lead a team to 11 wins. I saw 11 winnable games on that schedule. I thought that was their peak. I said between 10-6 and 11-5 and the AFC North title. But starting off 0-2, they have made me look like the biggest moron this half of the state. And there are so many things that are wrong that are off with this team, and it's really not even funny. I could literally start talking right now about everything and how to fix it, and I would probably be doing the show for another couple of hours. To put in perspective, hang on a sec. Seem to be having some technical difficulties here. Really? Okay, I'm back. I don't know if anybody caught any of that. Sorry about that. I'm having some difficulties with my computer, apparently. But back to what I was saying. To put in perspective how bad the Steelers are, I could start talking now and break down every single nitpick, every single little freaking problem that organization has. And I have a college class. I have a class tomorrow at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. I would probably get done talking right about then. That includes not sleeping. But I'm going to break it down and give you the condensed version. The quarterback position, I think it might be time to start looking for an heir to groom. Because they flashed a statistic during the game on Monday night when the Steelers lost the Bengals that Ben, by 100 sacks, has been sacked more than any quarterback in the league since 2004. By 100 sacks. To put that in perspective, how massive that total is. The next closest quarterback on the list was Matt Hasselbeck. He was in the 230s. Ben's at 350. Now, correct me if I'm wrong here, but if you have a $100 million quarterback who's won you a couple of rings, don't you think that getting him a little bit of help up front might be a good investment towards a good winning future? Yeah. All right, the quarterback position, yeah, because Ben's taking so many hits now. He's starting to look like a punch-drunk fighter, going for too much, trying to make plays whenever it's really not there. It's literally the point now where he's starting to look like he's aging. He's starting to really show like his age is hitting him. I know he's not that much older than many of the other starting quarterbacks in the league. He may only be 30, 31, but his body's like a 36-year-old because it's been bruised, battered, beaten all those years, taking hits. I mean, You figure the Steelers organization would have probably given him some protection over the years. Yes, they drafted a few offensive linemen in the first few rounds in the draft, but they haven't really panned out, which leads to my next issue, the way we groom players. I remember when Cowher was here, when a player truly proved that it was his time to play, like he was playing well enough, even if he wasn't playing that much, Cowher would play him. Like, a great instance in that would be Willie Parker. Willie Parker had been a pretty good preseason, had a pretty good season finale against the Buffalo Bills the year before. Cowher cut him loose, and he had 3 phenomenal seasons as the Steelers' primary running back. 2 of them Pro Bowl years. And one of them could have been the league's rusher for the year if he hadn't hurt his leg in the second to last game. Now, if Tomlin would have been in charge of the team in 2005, he would have handled that much differently. By the time Bettis or Deuce Staley could have played, he'd have sat Parker. My theory on this is that when you have a player who's like a thoroughbred, when you've got a player who's shown he's got some potential and it's time to let him play, it's time to let him play. And the way they've handled that the last year has been terrible. They've been having bum free agents and bum older players take the place of guys who should be playing them because, well, we feel we need to get them experienced. Get them, time to learn. No, there's really only one way to learn, and you can ask Peyton Manning, and he'll confirm this. You got to throw them into the fire. You have to. This isn't like going swimming for the first time, where you put your foot in, then you put your leg in, and then you put the rest of yourself in, like slowly and surely. If you really want to be a good swimmer, just throw your ass in and start swimming, or have someone help you. Learn and then swim. Now, the offensive line's been a big problem for me, but I got to give one guy credit. That's Fernando Velasco, the guy who took the place of Pouncey this Monday night. He played pretty damn well. Like, he didn't give up that many big sacks or many big hits on Ben. My problem with this team is the offensive lineman who should be playing well. Ramon Foster's an admirable player because not that good, but still fights his ass off and pretty decent player. My problem is with the other 3. Like David DeCastro, Mike Adams, Marcus Gilbert. You guys were so highly touted and supposedly so good. Where are you at? Gilbert, this is your 3rd year. Adams, this is your 2nd. DeCastro, this is your 2nd. It's about time you guys step up and start showing that, hey, I can play on this team. They gave up so many hits of Ben the last 9-10 games, the last few years. The last 9-10 games this year, the start and the end of last year, it's preposterous how much Ben's been hit. You need to have, some decent youth at the offensive line, but you got to have at least one cagey veteran, a guy that's been there forever that knows the ins and outs. This zone blocking scheme that they're trying to implement now in Pittsburgh, it doesn't fit these guys. These guys aren't meant to do that. They're meant to hold their blocks for like a couple of seconds to give Ben a little bit of a window. And that leads to the next issue, finding receivers. Ben was horrible at finding receivers on Monday night because as much as Mike Wallace is an asshole, and I'm glad he's gone, a lot of people probably say we need him back because think of it this way. Mike Wallace, even though he wasn't getting yards and touchdowns, was pretty much leaving Antonio Brown and Emmanuel Sanders with one-on-one coverage the entire game. And they were chewing it up. Now look, a year later, no Wallace, Cotchery, Sanders, and Brown, for my money, the worst receiving corps in the division. I'm serious. I would even probably rank Cleveland's ahead of him. Because Devone Best has proven at least he can play, and Greg Little's proven at least that he can play. Brown and Sanders have had a hell of a tough time getting open. They've not been able to get open and get positive yards because there's nothing to fear about the Steelers' offense. There's nothing to fear about the receiving corps. They have proven the receivers can't get open. And if the receivers can't get open, Ben can't get the ball out of his hands. And a combination of that, plus the fact the offensive line is very, very shaky at best, you have a recipe for a quarterback who's not going to end the season standing on his still 2 feet. To be quite honest with you, the defensive side of the football, the players, I don't have much of a problem with. The new guy they put next to Tim, what was his name, like Wilson or something? I mean, yeah, they need to get another guy to play his role. I mean, I think they should have been looking for foot success for a long time ago. Sean Spence getting hurt didn't help anything, but they could have at least been looking for a guy who can fill the position, or at least help spell Lawrence Timmons and help him, and help play better. But if you look at the defensive starters, I mean, Polamalu has looked as good as ever. Ryan Clark's played pretty good. Ike Taylor has played pretty good this season. I mean, but William Gay. Cortez Allen's the man now at that position. He's better than William Gay will ever be. I think he was hurt this past week, but you need to start him. You can't let Willie Gay start. I mean, it's that same old Tomlin attitude, is that the veteran should start over the younger guy. No, I really don't buy that. And the reason why I don't buy that is because the veteran's just not that good. I know Cortez Allen's entering his third year out of the Citadel, but Willie Gay has just proven that he's only at best a nickel corner. I like him playing in the nickel, but that's about it. Now look at the linebackers. Woodley and Timmons are guys you expect to see plays out of, and Woodley's had a decent year. He's had a sacker already. Timmons has proven he's still a force inside. It's very tough to run when that guy's anchor in the middle. But the other two positions are confusing me with how the Steelers are handling it. To make this note quick, I don't have much of a problem with the defensive line, other than the fact I'd like to see more of Cameron Hayward and less of Ziggy Hood. But other than that, the linebackers. Woodley's still good. Timmons is still good. Those are your rocks of that linebacking core. Why the hell is Jarvis Jones not on the field more? Where is he? I couldn't care less that he's a rookie. When the guy's proven he can play him. Play him. Play the man. Deion Sanders is a phrase, pay the man. Here's one for me. Play the man. Play the guy who gives you the best chance to win. Sometimes I actually have to watch the game and think to myself, is Jason World even playing? He could be in the starting lineup. I wouldn't know he's playing because he's so poor. Jarvis Jones has lit up Chris Johnson and Giovanni Bernard this season. He has stuffed so many run plays. He's proven he can be a pass rusher, an edge rusher. That'll take time, but he's getting there. On the flat, he's pretty good. But he's a rookie, so by some stupid rule, we can't play him as much. Bullcrap, play him. Tell him to pin his ears back and sick the quarterback. That's what he should be doing. Look at several NFL teams that have been successful the last few years. And just think about some of the players that they've started. Look at the last couple Super Bowl champions. Let's look at the last three. Packers, Giants, Ravens. The Ravens had a couple of talented young guns, like Torrey Smith. Guys like Torrey Smith. Guys like Michael Orr, even. They started Joe Flacco day one and put their faith in him. Who else did they bring? Oh, yeah, Courtney Upshaw played a hell of a lot. And what did they do? They went and won a Super Bowl. They didn't bring in no bums. They didn't let bum veterans play just because they're veterans. Look at the Giants the year before. No one had ever heard of the name Victor Cruz. Nobody. He shows up and, lo and behold, the guy's making plays like everywhere. I mean, look at other guys on that team. Jason Pierre-Paul came and played right away. Michael Boley. Who's that? That one? There's the one guy from Boston College, Mark Herslick. He played right away. He wasn't that great, but hey, he played right away as a rookie. Here's what I'm trying to say. Let's just go to the Packers one more before I quickly go with that. The only reason why it doesn't apply to Aaron Rodgers' Brett Favre situation is because Favre was still producing at a high level, and finally they retired and saw that Favre was going downhill. Rodgers, that was his time to play. But look at the young guys that they started playing. James Starks, Brian Bulaga, Clay Matthews, B.J. Raji. Those are guys that they drafted, that groomed over a training camp, inserted them in the starting lineup, and pretty much said, go for it. And they've done that. And Raji, Matthews, they're all pros. Bulaga would be a Pro Bowler if he wasn't hurt. And James Starks, if he had a decent offensive line in front of him, he could rush for 1,000 every year. He's that good. It's just a simple matter of this. You play the guys that give you the best chance to win. The Steelers aren't doing that right now. They're not. I want to see more of Marcus Wheaton. I want to see more of that guy because he supposedly, they compared him to Mike Wallace, the rookie, and they said other than being fast, he does everything better than Wallace did. And Wallace had a pretty damn phenomenal rookie year for the Steelers. Why the hell is Wheaton not playing more? Work in some 4 wide receiver sets. You know? I mean, Derek Moy had a great catch last night. I mean, he's a good player. You know, you have to play the guys that give you the best chance to win. And right now the Steelers are not doing that. They're going out, they're doing the same thing week in and week out, and they wonder why they lose. But that's enough about the players that I've had a problem with. It's time to talk about above them. My feelings at the end of the Steelers season last year was to fire Todd Haley and Mike Tomlin, but more or less Tomlin. Fire them both now. It's time. Axe them both. You know? Axe them both. It's time for them both to go. Because Tomlin's inability to manage a game, Haley's inability to find the best overall plays for his players, for each situation. His failure to do that and recognize key situations is the reason why the Steelers have had such little offensive production. They've scored 19 points in 2 games against 2 defenses that weren't necessarily ranked that high at the end of the year. Cincy sort of, but they should have at least put up 20 on Tennessee, at least. Here's the reason why Todd Haley succeeded in Arizona and Kansas City to an extent. In Kansas City, he had Jamal Charles, Dwayne Bowe, and he got one spectacular year out of Matt Castle. In Arizona, he had Kurt Warner, Larry Fitzgerald, and Quan Bolden. That's why he did so well. And Steve Breston for a while. But you go to Pittsburgh. And you give him Antonio Brown as your best receiver, who is nowhere near as good as Dwayne Bowe or Larry Fitzgerald or Bolden, or at my money, he's only marginally better than Breston was at his best. You have Emmanuel Sanders, who's lower than that. Jericho Cotchery is lower than that. And Marcus Wheaton would be as good as that if it played him. And you're expecting Todd Haley to put up 25 points a game? No, that doesn't happen. And then that takes it to the guys above that. When Art Rooney II got handed the keys to the car by Daddy, Mr. Dan Rooney himself, the team has been headed for the shitter faster than I am after a Taco Bell run. And I wish the hell that I could make that up. Watch the games. Watch the highlights of this team. I'm not giving up yet. I'm not. I'm really not. I've learned never to ever give up on the Steelers. 2005 showed that. 2010 showed that. But the one thing I have learned is to think with your head. And maybe my heart wanted them to go 11-5, more than my head thought they would. But they host Chicago next week. That's, fortunately, I hate to say, that's 0-3. You get 0-3 in today's day and age now, let alone Super Bowl or playoffs, you're not even looking at 500. I cannot think of that many teams that started 0-3 and then finished at 500 because there isn't that many. For the finish at 500, you'd have to win 8 of your last 13. And if you go 0-4, it's done. Pardon me. Now, what would I do if I was handed the keys to the Steelers' car? For one, I would tell Art Rooney II, oh, by the way, I got to get this off my chest before I start. Art Rooney II is so caught up in the idea of Steelers football, run the ball and play defense, run the ball and play defense, that's no reason. Remember earlier, I think it was either earlier this year, Todd Haley said we have a commitment to the running the football. That was not said by him. That was said by Art Rooney II, who was controlling him. Art Rooney II wants him to run the ball. He wants him to have that image. Well, I couldn't honestly care less if they ran the ball 20 times a game or 2 times a game. I care about the final score and whether we win or we lose. Art Rooney II doesn't care that much. He's not a football guy. Yeah, he's a member of a football family, but he's not a football guy. Now, if I was handed the keys to the Pittsburgh Steelers car, what would I do? Rule number 1. I would keep Ben. I would bolster the hell out of that offensive line. I think I'd probably axe about half that line. Pouncey can stay. Foster can stay. Adams, Gilbert, DeCastro. Unless DeCastro can stay a little bit because he's still touted and he's still got some game left. Adams is never going to get any better. Gilbert's never going to get any better. Get rid of them. They're bumps. Go in free agency or go in trade and get a couple of tackles. Or scout tackles better this year when you find them. Look for small school ones. Even do that. How Cortez Allen's a decent cornerback. You pulled him out of the Citadel. I mean, that would be like a number 1 recruit for a high school quarterback being from Elizabeth Forward Senior High School. If you live in Elizabeth Forward, or Thomas Jefferson for that matter, you'll get that analogy. It's not meant to be offensive, it's meant to be factual. Anyway, back to the show. But yeah, look for tackles in particular. Tackles. The center of that line's okay. Tackles is what you need to look at. Now, receivers. I would get rid of Emmanuel Sanders and Jericho Crabtree. And I would look heavily in free agency for guys that have proven, that they've done it at the NFL level, that they still have some experience and some fire left in them, and they still want to fight for a roster spot. Those are the guys you want. If anything, I would love to see the Steelers get a guy like Steve Smith in Carolina. That guy's 5'9" on a stack of books, and he's one of the best receivers in the league because he fights tooth and nail for everything. Yeah, he's mouthy, but that's what you want. He's not illegal. He doesn't go off the field and do anything stupid. He just makes plays. That's what you just want, a guy who makes plays. I would clean up the defensive line by saying, Kiesel, great career. Sorry, you're done. I would say, Ziggy Hood, you've been a bum. You're gone. I would go in free agency and get a defensive lineman. I wouldn't care if he's a 4-3 or 3-4. We don't need an edge 3-4 end to rush the passer. We need a guy to clog the line of scrimmage and to take up blockers. So the linebackers can run free. And speaking of linebackers, I want Jarvis Jones to be playing almost every single snap. Because he's proven he can do it. He's proven he's a good player. Now bear with me. The secondary, other than get Willie Gay out of there unless he's a nickel, I wouldn't do anything. Because I think the secondary still has some great potential. Palomalo's looking like a Pro Bowler again. But anyway, that's just what I have to say. So right now the Steelers are 0-2. And if you gave me the team right now and told me what to do, and I told you what I wanted to do with them, they'd be Super Bowl contenders by next season. Tomlin and Haley would be gone, and I think Dick LeBeau would be too. I'd promote their linebacker coach. I think it's Keith Butler, I believe, to the defensive coordinator. He's a 3-4 guru who focuses on linebackers. That's exactly what we need. So to review, the Steelers are in deep, deep trouble. And I will definitely be doing my NFL preview show again for this upcoming weekend. I think I might actually do it Wednesday night because that way I can talk about the Thursday night game and I can talk about all the games. Sounds good to me. Sounds good to you guys. I enjoyed this segment. I enjoyed doing this little show very, very much. Hope everybody enjoyed it. James Krasnerick from Real Steel Sports signing off.